He said to me, T-Mac, please tell your partner Marlon Jackson, the elder brother of Michael, that Michael should come to Nigeria.
Because I know there's some insights you'll share with us that we can't get anywhere else.
Was during the synagogue building collapse. When I heard, after about 2 hours, I was with him. Those of us who are very close to him know that.
My sister got blind.
Your sister got blind?
My sister got blind in school. All of a sudden, she can't see. My mom got shot like...
She got shot?
Yeah, she got shot. Like, my mom was kidnapped and we don't know how to go about it. We don't even know where our whereabouts.
He talked to me, he said, God is going to bring you before great men. He said, but you have to... I had never met him before, so I never talked to him about... And from that moment on, I did not know that I was going to be on CNN.
You came all the way from the UK just for this?
I had to.
See trouble that have put him in trouble. I said, what happened? And they threatened that the crusade will never take place.
I don't know whether people knew that aspect of him. At the stage, it also bothered him too, because he came and he asked me.
Before I even share this is something I saw about the prophet, and I told him about it, and he told me he's very glad I didn't share this in public, but I'm telling him alone, privately. But now, God has shared this.
Please like, share, hit the notification button, and please leave comments. I really want to know what you think about this video. And please subscribe. Thank you very much for subscribing. God bless. Love you.
Some of the most insightful moments that people have shared with Prophet TB Joshua.
Then I left for 6 years to America. I had a contract to work as an in-house composer for Universal. Prophet TB Joshua loved the arts. Many musicians who had a problem, health problem, financial problem, spiritual problems, they would follow me to the service and I'd say, I have this and this musician here. And he would call them up. One of Prophet TB Joshua's sons, Orlando Julius, a world-famous saxophone player who even wrote horn risks for James Brown. About 10 years ago, I brought him to the synagogue with a bleeding ulcer. He lost weight, couldn't blow his saxophone anymore. He was dying. Prophet TB Joshua touched him on his head in the prayer line. Prophet always knew where the problem is. He touched him here and he looked at me, speechless. We went to the beautiful restaurant and had a meal, and he ate. From then on, Orlando Julius told the whole world what happened in the synagogue. I mean, it goes on and on like this. Prophet TB Joshua introduced me to one of his sons called Ultimate Commander, a professional wrestler, heavyweight. He called me and said, T-Mac, I have one of my sons. He needs some management. You have an entertainment management company. Come on Sunday to the synagogue and meet Ultimate. I met Ultimate. He said he is going to have fight trying to become the heavyweight champion. So we sat down and we planned. 12 wrestlers flew in, including the champion. Something happened. They arrived and there was no escort. Prophet said, T-Mac, cool down. We bring cars. They brought everybody to the synagogue. Saini, the managers, I think there were about 16 people. TB Joshua immediately organized beautiful rooms for everybody. We had an emergency meeting. It was decided, don't worry, T-Mac, we do it in the Lagos Stadium. We went to the indoor sports arena, which wasn't used for 10 years. TB Joshua organized about 200 workers. We washed the whole place, painted it, put lights there, standby generator. In the meantime, the wrestlers were taken for training, taken for entertainment. I just looked at Prophet. It is not your obligation what you do. He said, no, we cannot make Nigeria look foolish abroad. It's my job now to make sure this fight will take off. 10 days later, Ultimate Commander fought and became the world champ. Now came, who is going to pay the salary balance was about $150,000. Having on short notice a fight, the gate fee was very little. TB Joshua said again, T-Mac, cool down. He paid everybody off. I said to myself, this is a true man of God. No benefit to him, just for Ultimate Commander to have his fight, for T-Mac not to look stupid as the manager. I am an approved wrestling manager. He put all this effort in. He hosted everybody, paid everybody a salary, and they left back to America. I'm sure you have seen on Emmanuel TV, Zaini and those wrestlers always talking about Prophet TB Joshua. Prophet TB Joshua got himself so much goodwill in the wrestling world for what he did. Words cannot express it.
And was a befitting representation of Nigeria, made Nigeria look good to the world.
Yes. I performed at the FIFA in South Africa when the
World Cup,
was on. Every morning at 3 o'clock, I knew he's going to call me. So I said, Prophet, today Nigeria is going to play. Are we going to win or not? He said, you know what, T-Mac? I don't like to give bad news. And Nigeria lost. So he knew already at 3 in the morning that Nigeria will lose in the afternoon.
It's incredible. Let's move over to a story that globally, this is one of the biggest news stories that's ever happened, especially in the world of entertainment, which was the passing of Michael Jackson.
Every year since 2002, on Prophet's birthday, I come to the synagogue. I fly in, I take my day off. On that particular birthday, he said to me, T-Mac, I have some bad news for you. Please tell your partner Marlon Jackson, the elder brother of Michael, that Michael should come to Nigeria. I pray for him and he'll be okay. But I remembered then I got home and I called Marlon and said, Marlon, Prophet tbjoshua said Michael should come in for prayers because he has a problem. But you know, Michael is at the moment rehearsing for his concerts in London. But what we're going to do is, since he is part of the Motherland project in Badagry, we formed a company called Motherland Group. We will bring Michael to lay the foundation stone in Badagry. But that will be in August. I said, but the Prophet told me it is rather urgent. The day Michael Jackson died, I drove home from Lagos. My driver took me home and I was in a very funny mood. I went home, I lied on my bed, and I got a phone call. Marlon calling and saying, T-Mac, put on CNN. Michael passed away. I put on CNN and saw how they took him out in that kind of trolling. I was astonished. I was speechless. I've learned one thing. When a prophet speaks, better believe. I should have jumped into the plane and saw Michael's mother, Catherine. I was close to the family. I knew all the brothers. We had the same management company in the 70s when I was the band leader of a band called Silver Convention. But it was God's will. I remember standing there trying to keep my tears off the side of Prophet, because Prophet said,
pray. I'm seeing a great star from the wall shouting, hey, 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 in his own area. It's famous, it's known everywhere. Great, too great. Because I see something begin to happen to that star, and that may likely end him to pack his load and go to the journey on no return. Last time there was a message given concerning somebody who's between life and death. Not in your community here, and I say we should pray. I want you to raise up your voice. If it is the will of God, there's nothing we can do about it. When it happened, you know something happened. It's too young to leave your midst.
A Sunday before Michael died, he told the whole congregation, I was there in the synagogue, this week a very famous artist will join the Lord in heaven. I cannot say the name, so there will be no panics, but he will go and rest with the Lord. That is on record that he said that on Sunday before Michael died. But I am the only person, he said in confidence on June 12th, that Michael will pass on. So that's one of the stories which changed my mind, my attitude. I said, a man of God sees this. And a man of God actually has the power to change things if people listen to him.
Senior Advocate of Nigeria, by God's very special grace, Olalekan Ojo, because I know there's some insights you'll share with us that we can't get anywhere else.
When I was led to his office, I have been looking forward to meeting you. And let me tell you straight away, as from today, you have become my lawyer. And he went further. You cannot be my lawyer and be poor. I am going to revive your foundation. Wow. Something told me that it meant every word he said to me on that day. That was the year I started applying for the rank of a senior advocate of Nigeria. I was very, very happy too, and I believed him. He made good his promise. Prophet tbjoshua tremendously assisted me. I applied for about 10 times. So when eventually we met, he said, my brother, I know everything that has happened. I didn't want to call you, but believe in God. Surrender this, your career. Surrender it to God. When you release it unto God, it is at that time that you will see God at work. He said, I will continue to pray for you. And he said, can you tell me how much you spent on the exercise for this 2017? I said, okay. Within about maybe 30 minutes, I was able to have a rough estimate. And at 12.5 or 13 million naira. I sent it through one of the disciples. Maybe in less than an hour, 2 of the disciples came and handed over to me the dollar equivalent, about 13 million naira then. He said, so at least you won't think about the money you have spent. He said, but I am assuring you, when you leave this into God, it is at that stage that God will do it. And it was proved right. The following year, when I didn't bother myself again, that was when the thing clicked. So he had empathy for me, in other words. Each time I saw him, encouragement. It could be emotional too. If he knew that somebody close to him was troubled, he will be the one to even send for you. And you will see in him that he felt for you. Always telling you that with God, all things is possible. So as if he had known that. I remember he told me, he said, this is your senior advocate. When you become, don't use it to defend injustice. Wow. Don't use it to defend somebody you know is a murderer. Said, at every opportunity, let it be known that you dedicate the award to God. And based on his advice, I have rejected some cases where I do not feel comfortable, regardless of the financial advantages. My brother, my friend.
There are times we felt empathy for him. People around the world felt empathy for him and said, how is the man of God coping? Of course, we knew how God was always with him. What did you learn from watching him manage the various trials?
During the synagogue building collapse, when I heard in Adah, the following day I came to Lagos. After about 2 hours, I was with him. And so he said, my brother, they want to finish me. I was moved. I was worried. It was naturally, anybody would be worried. But God saw him through. It was mysterious, but at the same time, it was a human being. He was worried. But at each point in time, as a Christian, God came to his rescue. That means if God is with you, nobody can bring you down. And if anybody is against you, he will not succeed. One other very important thing is this. So many cases of libel, we never went to court.
That says a lot.
We never went to court. Another thing, most people don't know, it was most industrious, extremely industrious. Those of us who are very close to him know that 3 a.m., 4 a.m., it will still be awake. Attending to visitors, studying the Bible, preparing, it personifies the fact that if you see a man that is diligent in whatever he does, he will stand before kings. And this reminds me of what Apostle Paul said. I labored more abundantly than they all. Prophet TBJoshua labored more abundantly than many men of God. And that was responsible for his phenomenal success. All-round success. He was also a fine dresser. I hope you know that.
Let's get into that.
Victor A.D., he's a musician from Nigeria.
So much pressure on a May figure. I say in dollar, I still want that 10 figure. I need the kind of money we're going to make Dangote say who with this black skin man where they worry on me. 2001, I had skin disease and I got hit by...
You had skin disease?
Yeah, I had skin disease. And I got hit by the prophet. And 2010, 2011, we became homeless. And the man of God came to our rescue, Prophet TBJoshua, for like a few months, 3 or 4. Then he came to our rescue and he gave us an accommodation. So many times he has helped us financially and otherwise without even asking. Then God so kind, I went to Ghana and everybody was singing along to my song. Then from there, Dubai, UK and all that.
Wow.
2019, there was a time in my career I was having some issues. I had to speak to him because I needed someone with higher knowledge and higher wisdom to speak to. I was privileged to meet him.
Met him one-on-one?
Yes, I was privileged to meet him one-on-one. When he saw me, he just laughed. He said, I heard you are now a musician. From there, he said, what's happening? He never fails to ask me how I'm doing. Like, he checks up on me like all the time. Anytime I meet him, the first thing he say, how's your career going? Hope everything is fine. Is there any way you want me to help you? So then I explained to him, I made him understand that, okay, there are some few challenges that I'm going through. I don't know how to go about it. I need you here. So that was how he told me some certain things. I was like, okay, no problem. Just be patient and things will work out for good. And glory be to God, everything he said, they all came to pass. So that caught me the most, how it spoke about forgiveness, because I was having one issue with forgiveness. So I had people who played me dirty and did a whole lot of stuff to me. And he was like, no problem, just let this thing go. God has brought you here, and God will always lift you up and take you to the next level.
So were you able to let go?
Yes, by the grace of God I was. That was when the COVID-19 all started. So I was supposed to go for my Europe tour. Then on my way to the airport, I got a call that the venue we were supposed to use, they can't do more than 1,000 capacity. And the show was booked for like over 1,000 and all that.
Because of COVID, right?
Because of COVID. We wanted to move to France, and the same thing, we got the same course and all that. And financially, things were not working. But I did not like I made him understand that things were not working for me financially. There's something he always does. He does everything proper to bring you closer to God.
Yeah.
Then I had a call from one of the evangelists that Daddy said I should come to the mountain. Then I kept on coming and praying. And one day, he just called me and said, I've assigned them to give you so amounts of money. And I was like, it's not written in my face that I'm actually in need of money. Then he smiled, and I was like, how did I know that you need money? So we just laughed about it. And the good time, after that, there are so many people owing me money that they don't want to pay me up. Don't worry about all these things. God will take control. Just leave it for God. And a few months later, I just got a deal, and there was millions of naira, and everything was it was even more than the money I was even asking for. My sister got blind. Your sister got blind? My sister got blind in school. We were in school, and the next time my sister was like, I can't see. And she was very okay before she left the house. Then all of a sudden, she can't see. And all we had to do then was just put a call through to the synagogue, and they prayed for her, and the next morning, she was healed.
Oh, wow.
Same with my mom. My mom got shot like a few years ago.
She got shot?
Yeah, she got shot like a few years ago.
Got shot by?
Armed robbers.
Armed robbers? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so she got shot by armed robbers like a few years ago, and I came to the synagogue and I called, and the next thing, Prophet TBJoshua just said, no problem, don't worry, she's going to be fine. I was like, how is she going to be fine? She's in Warrior. She can't move based on the fact that there was COVID then. So, and he said, don't worry, take this anointing water and pray for her. I said, me. I was like, at first when they told me that you're going to pray for her through the phone, I said, me? Somebody else should, somebody else should do it.
The Holy Spirit can walk through anyone. Yes.
That's true. I'm not going to do this alone. I'm going to do this with God. And by the grace of God, I did, and she was healed.
So you took the anointing water?
Yes.
You went home to your mother?
No, I didn't go home to my mother. I was impatient to do that. So immediately they gave me the anointing water. I just called her on video call, and I started praying for her.
Right.
And the next thing, she was healed.
Wow.
And there was a time she got kidnapped as well, and I just called. I called and I said my mom was kidnapped and we don't know how to go about it. We don't even know where our whereabouts and nothing. And the next thing, an evangelist called me back and said, Daddy said you shouldn't worry, that she'll come back home. I was like, let's take this matter up. Like, how do we go about it? Say, don't worry, just go to bed, don't worry, everything will be fine. And it wasn't like a few hours later, that was like 1 a.m. in the morning, and my mom just called, I'm in the police station right now. There's something, this and that. Yeah.
All the way from Mexico, Captain José Casas.
En una ocasión veníamos del Estadio Azteca. El profeta estaba hospedado en una montaña, un hotel que estaba en la cumbre de una montaña. Era un lugar muy peligroso. Ya era muy tarde, entonces la camioneta era muy pesada porque era un vehículo blindado y traía varios acompañantes. Entonces iba subiendo la cuesta a la montaña, pero tuvo un problema porque acababa de llover y la camioneta no podía subir. Entonces yo estaba muy preocupado porque era un lugar muy peligroso. Y entonces estábamos viendo qué podíamos hacer y veo al profeta que estaba dormido. El profeta estaba dormido y me recordó como cuando Jesús estaba dormido en la barca. Y los discípulos estaban todos preocupados y el chofer que venía, un sargento, él fue el chofer personal del presidente de México, de Enrique Peña Nieto. Él, un hombre muy entrenado, muy capacitado, volteó la camioneta y la subió de reversa. Fue como pudo subir la camioneta, pero el profeta estaba dormido. Y cuando llegamos ya al hotel, él pues se despertó y como si nada hubiera pasado. Él salía caminando a orar. En la punta de la montaña de la Jusco en México se llama el Pico del Águila, así se llama. Entonces él caminaba hacia ese lugar, pues era un lugar inhóspito, un lugar peligroso. Entonces nosotros, el protocolo de seguridad se forma un diamante, así le llamamos. El diamante es el que va a la vanguardia, 2 en los costados, en los flancos derecho, flanco izquierdo, y nosotros formamos lo que llamamos un diamante. Llegamos a ese lugar y el profeta se postró y empezó a adorar, empezó a orar, y nosotros le llamamos abrir el diamante. Nos separamos aproximadamente a unos 150 50 metros de donde estaba el profeta. Él estaba orando y en ese momento cayó la gloria de Dios. Y nosotros estábamos cuidando, ¿sí? Pero también nosotros caímos prostrados. La gloria de Dios descendió de una manera tan impresionante como me recordó el pasaje del libro de Éxodo, cuando la gloria de Dios bajaba, cuando estaba Moisés en el tabernáculo de reunión. Y dice la palabra de Dios que la gente que estaba caía postrada también. Entonces nosotros, cuando yo recuerdo, los de seguridad, todos estábamos postrados. Nadie estaba cuidando nada ya. Todos estábamos postrados, sintiendo la presencia, estábamos llorando, estábamos quebrantados delante de la gloria de Dios y veíamos al profeta como él estaba metido en la presencia de Dios. Eso a mí yo nunca había visto eso en el tiempo que tengo, ni como militar, ni como pastor. Yo había presenciado algo así. La gloria de Dios descendía directamente donde se encontraba el profeta. Nosotros ni siquiera nos podíamos acercar a ese lugar. Eso a mí me impactó, me conmovió profundamente. Varias escenas, varias experiencias personales que yo guardo en mi corazón.
American singer-songwriter Vashawn Mitchell.
So normally when we sing and we leave and go to the hotel. This time I sang and then I saw miracles. I saw, like deliverance happening. So I wanted to stay to the end. And it was my first time being introduced to Prophet TBjoshua Ministries. And when I tell you afterwards, they said Prophet wanted to see me. So I was nervous. I was like, oh my God, he's going to say something. So I went to his trailer and he began to speak to me. Basically, God said he's going to be my big brother. And since that day, he's been exactly that, big brother to me, a friend, a prophet, a covering. He talked to me. He said, God is going to bring you before great men. He said, but you have to forgive your father.
Wow.
I had never met him before, so I never talked to him about what, growing up without a father and all the animosity I held. And he saw it right away. And since that day, it was a trusted relationship. He'll invite me to the synagogue and I would never sing. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen the prophet. But every day he would send me to the mountain to pray. He would make sure I had a plan to get closer to God. Because at that time, I had just met my father.
Wow.
So basically, I spent 30-something years not knowing who he was. I just knew his name, of course. And we had met, and I just didn't want to meet him. I carried animosity, and I didn't know that was holding me back from my destiny. So that moment when Prophet spoke into my life, forgive him, and I began to break down. And from that day on, began to change the rest of my life. It was like the turning point in my life, because people saw this Vashawn on TV or this Vashawn on music videos, and they didn't see the broken Vashawn. And that day when he spoke to me, the broken became healed.
Wow.
I remember one time he sent me to Israel, and he didn't come this time, but he called on the phone and he said, bless the people of God. They want to hear a sound from you. And from that moment on, I did not know that I was going to be on CNN singing in Israel because of the prophet. So
wow.
He's opened, so many doors and the connections. I'm a songwriter and a singer, right? So I enjoyed the times that he'll invite me to the office and share with me some of the songs that he wrote out of prayer and worship. And it was like, oh my God, these songs are amazing. And those are personal times that I don't think everyone can get. They see him as a prophet, as a healer, as a speaker, as a leader, but they didn't see him as a songwriter who was just hearing the sound of God and writing it and putting it to music. I was so amazed by those moments. And then over time, he allowed me to sing some of the songs with choir and to help arrange them. So first of all, I was shocked, because I was one of the ones that this is a prophet, this is a man of God, this is, I didn't know he was a songwriter. But then when you hear him and you hear the songs, the thing is that no matter if you have a Grammy or not, the songs come straight from the throne of God. Worked on a whole project before from spending time at Prayer Mountain because I was just able to be free. One thing about those times is that I didn't have a cell phone with me. I was able to pray and not be disturbed. I was able to just hear the voice of God. One of the songs I wrote, God Can Do Anything, is from hearing the sound that I kept hearing around Prayer Mountain.
Dr. Yinka Oduwole.
So I would say my journey with the prophet started as a youth worker in the youth department with SCOAN. So it was during one of those encounters I met him and he asked about my background and my education. And at that moment, it took special care and attention and decided to step in to be a mentor. I enjoyed the privilege of having him as a mentor, and that yielded successful fruits. The first being that I was able to graduate the first class from the University of Lagos, and I never imagined I would be able to graduate with the first class, actually.
Wow.
So I would say his mentorship played a huge role. So that was really the starting point. After my first degree, the prophet constantly said I needed to go for a master's degree. Being generous, he also sponsored that. It was broadband communications at University College London. The prophet took me under his care, mentored me, showed me great love and attention. I would constantly call him whenever there were hurdles or challenges, being away in a foreign land.
That's right.
For the first time. So, of course, there were peculiar challenges that I faced being away from home. So I had the opportunity that I could call him, and he would listen and give advice. That also yielded good fruits in the sense that I actually came top of my class, and it was an international class. Yeah, to a large extent, I can't really take credit because there's so many people who are brilliant, but without the grace of God, sometimes brilliance is just nothing.
That's right.
I would really say it's more of the hard work, and then you combine it with God's good grace that made a difference. When I finished the master's, the doctorate wasn't the next step I wanted to take, but it was the prophet's suggestions that you should go for a PhD, and I was like, no, I don't want to do a PhD, and he was like, yes, you should do a PhD. Eventually, I succumbed, and I got an offer at Oxford, and it was tough in Oxford. It was really tough because I remembered in my first year I had issues with my qualifying exams. Would call the prophet constantly to listen to his advice and guidance. Even when I had to do my viva for the PhD itself, I had really tough examinations. I think one thing that stuck for me was the fact that the prophet believed I could do it, even though I didn't believe I could. But eventually, with God's good grace, I was able to overcome those challenges. And in hindsight, you actually appreciate those challenges, right? Because if gold must be gold, right, it must pass through furnace. I actually appreciate it because it actually makes me stand out in my environment, which is male-dominated, and the demographic as well doesn't favor me. But with that special achievement, exactly, it really makes you stand out. Like, it's outstanding where your peers are being compared with you. That stands out. So now, in hindsight, you actually appreciate the prophet's efforts in constantly and persuading me to do a PhD.
Wow.
That, I could actually do this because it takes vision for a man to actually see that you could do certain things when you don't even think you could do it.
He is a publisher, a politician, a journalist. Please welcome Chief Dele Momodu.
He said he would want to be in Ovation, that he likes the magazine. And I said, oh, thank you, sir. And we agreed on a fee. And he also booked 5,000 copies in advance. So we did the feature, put him on the cover, printed in England. And when the magazines arrived, came and I said, where do you want us to deliver? I said, oh, I should come with 10 copies. So I came, gave him 10 copies. I said, what of the rest? He said, no, go and sell it and spend the money. I couldn't believe it. I said, how can a man order 5,000 copies? So I said, oh, wow. I don't think they manufacture people like this again in heaven. Then, a few days later, he sent for me. He said, that I've put him in trouble. I said, what happened? He said, Mommy said, how can he be alone on the front page of the magazine? I said, I didn't know. He said, no, Mommy normally does not even like publicity. So I'm surprised, but she happens to like your magazine. So that was how I had 2 of them, So back to back, we had to do another edition immediately, and then we featured Daddy and Mommy.
You're one of the very few people that Prophet TB actually posed for a picture with.
Yeah.
So besides world leaders and so forth, generally the man of God was a mysterious man who didn't really care for those types of moments.
When Professor Evans Atta Mills of Ghana was running for election, so he came to Nigeria, and one morning I got a call from Prophet TB Alagba. Ekaro, good morning. And I said, Ekaro, sir. Respect begets respect. So I respected him a lot. I said, Ekaro, sir. Talero come and win election to Mboni Ghana. Who do you think would win the next election? I said, I think it will be Nana Akufo-Addo. He said, no. He said, Nana will not win. So I said, everybody is saying Nana Akufo-Addo would win, that Nana has money and Atta Mills doesn't have money. I didn't know Prof was with him. He then said, okay, hold on for Prof, and gave Prof the phone. And I said, Prof, how are you, sir? He said, he's fine. He said, please, I've come to the man of God to help me. He has told me that you're a good man and you have good friends who can help me. So he left. And then on his way back to Ghana, at the airport, he met another friend of mine. And they called me again. He said, Chief, I would really like to know you. Go everywhere I go, your name keeps cropping up. So that was how Prophet TB networked with everybody. I'll cut the story short. And he won. What surprised me was that after winning the election, some people, once they get power, they forget those who supported them. But the first thing he did was for him to come to the synagogue for a Thanksgiving. And I was shocked that the man of God remembered my role and called me to come in that day to meet with the president. And I asked Prof, what is it that you like about this man of God? Because even we Nigerians, people say all sorts. And the man told me, he said, look, I'm a professor of law and I am an expert in taxation. I deal with empirical facts. This man of God told me I would win at a time I had no chance whatsoever. Not only did he tell me I would win, he told me that the elections would be held 3 times and gave me specific dates for the elections. They all came to pass. So how can I doubt such a man? And that really touched me. And in Ghana and all over the world, the man of God was idolized by people because he was phenomenal. He was not an ordinary person. He taught me something that day, that winning is not about going through election and winning, but you can build something massive. You can build a movement out of nothing. Do you know he called me a second time to remind me that, you remember what I told you, you're not going to win? And he was still carrying those bags again, and it was money, and he gave it to me. And so till today, I'm a part-time politician. I'm not, if I have a job, but I will continue to work for my country because I want my country to improve. I want my country to develop. And I owe it to Prophet tbjoshua to keep going because he already gave me an indication that I'll be climbing higher and higher. And that's what has happened to me. My final encounter will be our trip to Israel when we went to Nazareth. I think there was an Israeli woman who was an agent to a lot of churches. So if you want to go on pilgrimage, she would like to contact Prophet tbjoshua. So I called him that there is someone trying to get the job of handling some of his activities in Israel because he's so big in Israel. I mean, once you land at the airport, if you mention Prophet tbjoshua, you would think he's the president of Israel. I've never seen, a Nigerian that big in Israel. Then thereafter, he called me back. He said, hey, it's even good that you called. I want you to travel with me to Israel. And I'm like, I said, there is no way I will say no to you. And I'm happy I never said no. He paid for the trip. I traveled through London, went to Nazareth, and that was when I developed the highest level of regard and respect for him. From the airport, everything was, are you for TB? Are you for TB? Then we stayed at the Adah Hotel or something like that. The entire hotel, everywhere was about TB. The security getting to the mountain. Oh my God. You would think American president was coming on a visit. And then when I saw the organization, it was such an organized man of God. Very, very, and I think it was intentionally so. I said, no, this is not an ordinary human being. So we got on the mountain. He had his offices, air-conditioned offices. This was a mountain that had apparently been abandoned in Israel over time, in Nazareth. And they were surrounded by Arab Muslims. And they threatened that the crusade would never take place. So that was why there was so much security. So in fact, they had to drop people almost 2-3 kilometers to the mountain. And they had to go through security screening, then go on buses. I don't know how anybody could have had such an elaborate planning and organization. So I think it was for 2 nights. So on the final night, I requested to see him. So, and we went to the offices. You know, there was a waiting room. And when it was my turn, I went in there. And he said, Alagba, I'm sorry I've not been able to see you. I said, no, I'm even wondering how you cope with all these requests from people. The mayor of Nazareth came there. Physically, everybody was calling him. So we had our meeting. And I treasure those pictures. He was just very comfortable with me. Then I can never forget him. I can never forget good days. And there was this mystique around him. Couldn't figure him. They couldn't place him. And had to manufacture all kinds of stories about him because he was magnetic in nature. He was a true Christian. Love your neighbor as yourself. Forgive your enemies. I knew a lot of people who wronged him. And you would think he would never talk to them. Even journalists who wrote trash about him, tomorrow he will hear that they have problems and he was always ready to help them. For me, that is the height of, sacrifice. Accepting life as it is. He already sowed the seed into my life. And I will forever treasure that.
And that's the meaning of impact, isn't it?
That's it.
Former special advisor to the former governor of Oyo State, Mr. Bolaji Tunji.
Started around 1995. I was working in the media, the Guardian newspaper. I was just a reporter then. There was an incident that happened around Ikotoegbe, where the church is located. And a fellow journalist came to the office to report it. And normally, when an event happens like that and a journalist is passing, he is supposed to cover that event, but the fellow fellow did not do that. He just came to the office and said, I saw some vehicles, some policemen around Prophet TB Joshua's church in the Kotun. And the editor was asking him, why didn't you go and cover it? He said, I could not too, because I'm afraid. I don't know the kind of person TB Joshua is. And I said, what kind of person is TB Joshua? Why? If you can't go, let me go and do it. And I went to the church that day. You know, that time, the ministry was still a fledgling ministry. It was just starting up. It was just being known by people. And the phenomena was very strange to many people, because this is a man that just came and he started performing some wonderful things in people's lives, you know. So it was very strange for them, and they were afraid. They didn't know where that power came from. And so many stories were abound at that time. So I said, look, I'm a journalist. Let me go there and see what people are talking about. I want to see what's happening. The guy said, no, he doesn't want to go because he didn't want to go crazy, we don't want to go mad. You know, speculations that's based on falsehood. That anybody that goes to TB Joshua's church that doesn't write something about him very well, that person will go crazy, will go mad. I said, let me go there. And I went to that church. I didn't see Prophet TB Joshua, but I was there incognito. I was observing. I was there first day. I was observing people coming and going out. Second day, I was there. The third day, I was there. And I spoke with people. I couldn't see Prophet TB Joshua. And I went back to my office to write what I saw in the church. The piece I wrote them was entitled A Place Called the Synagogue in the Guardian newspaper. And let me tell you, what I wrote was what I observed. People were happy, they were rejoicing, and I wrote about the fellowship, the belief in the power of the Almighty. There was nothing negative in the church. That was my observation. If there was anything negative, I would have written it, because I didn't owe him anything. I never knew him. I was just there to do a good job as a journalist. And I went there, I did my report. And after I did that report, I think he saw that report. He was surprised. He now said, okay, come. He now said someone to me that, look, go and call that man. I will give you an interview that if this man could come to my church, he observed everything. Nobody knew he was even there. And nobody induced him. And he went to write his observation. No, this is someone that will give an interview to, because that means he's an impartial reporter. And that was how I met Prophet TB Joshua for me. For majority of the people, is that when something is strange and they cannot explain it, they must find an explanation for it in their own way. And that was what I think happened. They were just trying to find an explanation for the phenomenon that was TB Joshua. I think the realization that the country, the world had lost something great is going to start dawning on us. People are realizing it. Look at the tourism industry in Nigeria. I learned that out of the 10 tourists that come to Nigeria, 6 go to the synagogue. Out of 10 people that come to Nigeria for tourism. So that is a whole lot of loss for the country. And apart from that, look at the area like Kotoegbe too. When TB Joshua started in the Kotoegbe, it was barely a developed place. But look at hotels that sprung up when he came in. So you see, when the journalists were reporting, they were reporting because, one, they didn't have enough information about him, which at the stage, it also bothered him too. Because he asked me, why is it that they always write these negative things about him? I will tell him that, look, you are a strange person. You are not normal. You are not ordinary. And if people see that, they must have an explanation for it. So you can't blame them. He will just say, why do they, even if God didn't call me, can't they let God fight his own battle himself? And that thing never bothered him again. He just continued what he was doing. And most times, journalists who are interested, want to get across to him, most times I just tell him, okay, or they want to speak with you, okay, are they partial reporters? Will they write what they see? What they will say? They will not go and twist it. I said, look, if I guarantee them, they will do the right thing. And that's why the little ones interviews he granted was because you feel he could trust those people that would not go and twist whatever he says. That was it. The reason why they were negative was because it was strange to them. When something is strange, there must be an explanation for such thing. And it's not as if I didn't hear those negative things too about him. I had those things. But you see, I felt you can't rely on hearsays. You have to experience it. So I said, let me go and experience this thing. And I met with him. And when I met with Prophet TB Joshua, I was amazed at his humility. Extremely generous. But you see, that manifested in so many things he did in his lifetime. The whole people he took care of. But even for people, when you go there, before any other thing, you have to go and eat. You just take you to the restaurant. He give you different gifts, publications. He even give you money for transport. If you package it, there's no way you will refuse it. You just, whenever I say some things about, he just laugh. He just slap me on the hand like this. He just slap me. Or leave that one. You know, and it was just a wonderful human being. Wonderful human being. So losing him was a very traumatic thing for someone like me. and then give me some of the stickers, I felt protected. I felt that I had the Spirit of God around me. And thank God, I can tell you that in all the years I spent in government, there was no major issue, nothing. And there was a time we went for a function, my boss, and they were throwing stones, they were doing this at the time. I never, no injury, nothing. For me, I never had any problem. And I felt that, look, so I went with him to Dominican Republic. The country came out to welcome me. The president, everybody, they came out to welcome me. They have everything. Then the day for the revival in their stadium, the people are already lined up. There was this child, about 6-7 years old, that could not walk. The parents, they had this thing strapped on the child's leg. Nothing. He couldn't walk. They just laid him down like that. So Prophetess tbjoshua came around to that guy. He just touched the guy. He just touched the guy like that. The young boy. He just removed the strap. He just put the boy up. Do you know what happened? The boy started running. I was weeping because I never saw that kind of thing before. It was a child that was small, around 6-7 years old child. I decided chasing the boy. I couldn't believe it. And that really, really brought tears to my eyes. That look, this is a true man of God. A true man of God. So those are the things I know the world means about him. People, I don't know whether people knew that aspect of him. He could laugh. He has a very hearty laugh like that. You know that he was actually enjoying his laughter. He was just slapping on the hand like this. You understand? He was that kind of person. But I don't know whether people saw that aspect of him. But I experienced this because he was always open with me. And at that time, it actually bothered him that why are people always talking like this? I'm not doing anything negative to anybody. I'm not. So why? I would always say, look, that it's just because of the way they see you. Because they are not close to you. And because they are not close to you, they have to come up with something. People are born a vacuum. Something must fill that vacuum. And since they don't have access to you to talk to, that vacuum will be filled with something of their own creation. And that's what happens.
Famous gospel artist from Ghana. Let us welcome Mr. Shasha Marley.
Before I even share this, let me share with you a revelation I had about the prophet in the year 2013. And you know what? This is something I saw in the year 2013, and I never got to meet the prophet again till 2020. And I told him about it, and he told me he's very glad I didn't share this in public, but I'm telling him alone, privately. But now I feel in my heart and in my spirit that I got to share this, because our fathers returned to the Lord and the world must hear this. Listen, one Friday night, I was preparing to go out there to perform somewhere in the city, Accra, but I was praying with my wife and my little baby in the court. At that time, Emmanuel TV was on. In my bedroom, I had a huge Jesus picture in my bedroom on an altar that I built, and this altar contains spiritual items I received from the synagogue, from the man of God, the morning water, the stickers, the pamphlets, the CDs, and the DVDs and all that. I keep them in the altar. And on top of the altar is this huge Jesus picture there. So I was praying, ministering the morning water that evening. And as I was turning around in the name of Jesus, in the blood of Jesus, in the name of Jesus, lo and behold, my eyes fell on the Jesus picture that I've had in my room for so many years. And this is tbjoshua, black man on the picture. So I screamed, Jesus! And it went off. And then Jesus picture came back. So I said, what is happening? I saw tbjoshua appear on this Jesus picture. Black man, short black hair, in ash suit, looking at this direction. Now listen, this Jesus picture I've had in my bedroom looks at me straight. White color skin, blonde hair, blue eyes. And this time it was a black man, tbjoshua, on the picture, glowing in a split of a second, shouted Jesus, and he went off. So I never got to meet the prophet from 2013. I did all my best to come back to the synagogue to tell him this, but it never happened. But listen, in the course of the week, I was pondering over this revelation I had. It was so much in my face every time I was seeing it in my mind's eye. Then one mid-morning, I was sitting on the staircase. I heard a voice spoke to me. I turned around, there was nobody. This voice said, what has been hidden from the wise and the prudent has been revealed to the babe and the suckling. So I turned around, there was nobody. Well, eventually 2020, I had the grace to be there and I met with the prophet. I said, man of God, this is what I saw in 2013 about you. He looked around straight into my eyes, very quiet. He looked deep into my eyes. Look left, look right, as if he's looking for somebody to call. And he came back and said, look, I'm very glad you didn't say this publicly, that you told me privately. At that time, she had asked one sister to bring me morning water and stickers in the bag. And when the sister came and said, wait, I'd like to see him again tomorrow. Listen, the following day, man of God called me, took me to his office down there at the mountain, the little office, asked everybody to go out. And what happened there? This is a man of God who's impacted my life big time, big time.
Dr. Vanda, good morning and win today. Thank you so much for joining us.
2009, I was in Venezuela attending the Venezuela Africa Summit as vice president. And while I was there, I received information that my husband had suffered a stroke in UK on his way to the West Indies, where he was to chair the meeting of the Judges and Magistrates Association. At that time, my husband was serving as the Chief Justice of Swaziland, and I was vice president in Malawi. So we were living in two different countries, but a message got to me that my husband had collapsed in London and was in a hospital in London. So I flew back and I got to the hospital, and he turned and looked at me and said, I'm fine. So the following day, the doctor said, you must come quickly to fill up his forms. And I said, nobody, you can ask him, because I spoke to him last night. I'm told it's a minor stroke. The official said back to me, I'm sorry to inform you that it's not a minor stroke, and he can't speak. The only phrase remaining on his brain, it's, I'm fine. And he tried to make me understand by saying what happens during stroke is that sometimes it's like a library, all the books are falling off. There's only one book left. So on his mind, I'm fine is all that is there. He can't remember anything else. So I rushed to the hospital and found indeed that one, he couldn't use his right hand, he couldn't speak, and that's all he could say is I'm fine, and he had weakness in his leg. He couldn't remember my name. He couldn't remember any name of any of our 9 children. And so we watched him. It was a very stressful time for us. Watch this vibrant man suddenly can't walk, suddenly can't speak Malay. Now we are trying to consult this speech therapist and that speech therapist. And that's the situation that I suddenly found myself in. After 1 week in that hospital, the doctors told us that what would help most is maybe time, that maybe physiotherapy and speech therapy and things like that might help. But usually he had suffered a massive stroke, and as such, he could remain like that maybe for the rest of his life. That was the first time I thought coming to Nigeria to meet Prophet TB Joshua. I didn't realize that by taking my husband to Nigeria and go to the SCOAN for prayers, we were establishing a long-time relationship. So we flew into Lagos. I didn't know Prophet TB Joshua. I had never been to SCOAN. I did not know anybody there. We would be flying back on Monday, having failed to get hold of him. So we had already checked out, and we were waiting to go to the airport when we got information that he was looking for a Mrs. Joyce Banda in that hotel. And so I rushed to the reception because we had already checked out. And he said to me, I'm Prophet TB Joshua. And I remember screaming on top of my voice. I just could not believe. So Prophet TB Joshua said, you still have a lot of time. Your plane leaves at 8:30. Try to come. You are an hour away. I said, no, we may not make it to the airport, and we can't spend another night in Nigeria. And he said, no, you will make it. I will make sure that when you go, you have security that will lead you to the airport in a shorter time than normal. So we traveled to the SCOAN. That's the first time I go to the SCOAN, when I came with my husband for Prophet TB Joshua to pray for him.
Everybody, when we see you sitting in the service, everybody thought that you must have known him and everything was arranged. So it's incredible to know that by faith, this is how it transpired. Now, I'm curious to know what your first encounter was like with this man. After all you had been through, your hopes were raised, then dropped down, then finally your hopes are raised again, and you make your way to the church. What was your first meeting with Prophet TB Joshua like?
I had seen a photo of him, so I had an idea what he looked like. But my husband had not even seen a photo. So we were sitting in this room for the longest time because he was attending to other people. So when he walked in, I knew who he was. So I stood up. And I'm with somebody who can stand up, but who also looked uninteresting. My husband didn't know who this person was. You know how he used to look so simple sometimes. And I mean, he wasn't even in his famous shirt that he wore every Sunday. He was wearing his shorts and a t-shirt. So when he walks in, it is me who whispered to my husband to say, that's him, that's the prophet. I mean, he couldn't speak, but he looked surprised. And I stood up and I fell to my knees. I didn't know what to do. And he said, sit down. And so I'm trying very hard to explain to him what has happened to my husband and how he's my last hope. And he told me, don't speak anymore. This is not about you. Mr. Banda, look at me. Get up and walk. I'm trying to tell Prophet to say, look, he can't walk properly. He says, don't utter another word. I said, don't speak. So he says to retired Chief Justice, get up and walk towards me. In the past, in Malawi, when he's watching prayers and Pentecostals or other bishops here in Malawi, if they are carried away by the Holy Spirit and they fall to the ground, he used to laugh a lot and he used to say, that is fake. This particular time, the man of God asks him to stand up. And remember, one part of the leg, the other leg is weak. So he stands up and he says, well, try to walk towards me. And as he walks towards him, he just went like that and he went flying and fell all over me. And I'm laughing because this is a man who has always said that was fake. And he laughs even up to now. So Prophet then prayed and prayed and prayed. And what I remember seeing is that my husband became so emotional. He couldn't pray back, he couldn't talk, but I also was praying along. After that, he told us, you can go. He's healed in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. And he told me one thing that I shall never forget. He says, if you go home, even when he is healed, it's not me. Thank God for it. Thank Jesus Christ for it. I'm just a vessel. The cars led us to the airport. And so I see him drag himself and sit down. And then we sit down. He says to me, Mommy, I'm fine. And I said, well, I've heard you say that before. He says, no, I'm fine. And then he went like that. Because this hand, he couldn't do that. So he went like that. He says, look, I'm healed. I'm fine. And I said, then get up and walk. And he stood up and he walked. And so we all fell back on the bed and started laughing and praying. And we decided that because on one of the online news, they had written that he's in his deathbed, he can't breathe, he can't speak. And I said to him, what do you think we should do? The only way you can know, even now, that he ever suffered a massive stroke is that he drags his speech. And so he said, well, we must show Malawi that the Lord that we worship is an awesome God. So we traveled back to Malawi. There was an event here in one of the hotels. Our president in Malawi had just been elected the chair of the African Union, and the Malawians decided to have a reception to celebrate that. And so we arrived when everybody is thinking he's on some bed in some hospital on his death. So we got home, got ready, and went to this dinner. And it was unbelievable. The way some of us looked at us as if they had seen ghosts, and you can't blame them. Most of it was what they were expecting is to get a message that he's no longer there. I've been in so many fests in my country, maybe 8 or 9 fests. So you become a fest in your country, a fest in your region, you are first president in your region, you are first woman to chair a statutory corporation in your country, you are first woman to head a regulatory authority in Africa, you are first woman president. And in that respect, you need people to hold you up, and you need people to pray for you, and you need people to offload to. And there are so many people you cannot trust because you don't know why they are talking. This Prophet tbjoshua became that brother to me, that father to me, that uncle to me, that person I could talk to when I needed somebody to talk to. What I found most amusing is that sometimes even when I gave a speech in Parliament, maybe I would give the State of the Nation address, I wouldn't even believe that he's been listening, because later on then he would call me and comment on some of the things that I said. What I found in my relationship with Prophet tbjoshua is his sincerity and genuineness in as far as I was concerned and my family was concerned. And so most of the time what stood out for me in my relationship with him is the fact that he always advised me, stay African, stay African. Yeah, do the best that you can, but don't borrow some habits that are borrowed from elsewhere that can't work here. Stay African and be the mother that people expect you to be, the leader that people expect you. But at the end of the day, remain an African woman leader.
That's absolutely powerful and extremely profound.
Help me to welcome Mr. Malaki Ogumade.
Thank you for the opportunity to be with you. We have had to deal with a number of people, particularly in the fight against military hegemony in this country. He was consistent, perseverant, and determined to ensure that those centers of agitation and campaign that brought some relief and redress to victims of human rights violations continue to have one form of support or the other that will sustain them and enable them. Short, I remember him saying that, do you know we are doing almost similar work? We are engaging on the spiritual front and you are there right on the street engaging the polity, as it were. That sent a very huge message to me. It was remarkable to me. But above all, I was deeply fascinated by his sense of humility. I did meet Prophet tbjoshua as a simple man, but the glory and grace with which he impacted the world, no less his immediate environment, cannot be separated from that general attitude of humility. I think that aspect of him was inviting, so much so that there were actually no barriers. You're going to meet this man of God that had the capacity to influence the world, resolve crises in countries, reconcile broken homes, and reach out to the poorest and yet interacts with the highest. And you'll suddenly be amazed that he was putting on a bedroom slippers and he makes jokes out of it. And the next day you come thinking that there'll be a retinue of officers. You see him usually in a short knicker while he's not in the pulpit. You were there overwhelmed by the thought of meeting a great man of God. And you found out eventually that he's just like you and would want you to see it that way.
That's right.
His natural penchant for reaching out to the underprivileged, the deprived, the dehumanized. And he didn't do that by proxy. He consciously took out quality times to relate and associate with the downtrodden. I remember vividly on many occasions when he had to eat and drink with people whom you would want to deal with a long pole. That for me gave life and meaning and zeal and zest and concrete expressions to what humanity means. Make no mistake about it, it was him. Otherwise, he wouldn't do it so perfectly well. If he learned how to do it, you could find some mistakes. Was to see him carry bags of rice.
Yeah. He was that down to earth.
I couldn't but wonder what manner of person, what the degree of humility with which he served God and humanity.
The sincerity and the giving and the heart of Prophet. You know, there were some times that I spent with him that he'll just get on the back of the truck and we'll ride from the synagogue to Prayer Mountain. He'll be throwing food off of the back of the truck himself and not his team. I was like, okay, he's the prophet, you know, and everyone who come by, they're waving, he's shaking hands, he's hugging babies. It's that heart, you know. And I'm not saying no one else has a heart, but you can tell that his heart is pure and his love for people is pure. And I believe that, you know, that's where I needed to connect with. And I watched his sincerity and how he gave back everyone around him. And every place he went, we'll go around to Prayer Mountain and he'll walk me around. He was so excited, honestly, about this studio. He showed me this studio before it was built, so I'm looking at it now like, oh my God. But when it was just wood, what everything is going to happen and what it's going to be and how he's going to take ministry to the world. One thing, you know, that I know that he's a visionary. And when he see it, he almost let you see it by the way he explained it.
tbjoshua was the biggest giver I have seen in my life.
But there is something which I really learned from him. You know, some people will give in a very arrogant manner. He never did. That's what I practice. I learned that from him.
I don't know how to explain that. Like, let's say, for example, I have a problem. It's not going to tell you that, how do we solve your problem? It's going to say, how do we solve our problem?
Right.
So he actually fits himself in every situation and makes it...
He empathizes with you.
Yo lo sentía, perdónenme la expresión, pero como un niño de un corazón puro, de un corazón. Y se acercan unas personas Inmediatamente cuando yo percibo que se acercan unas personas, tengo que adoptar un protocolo de seguridad, un dispositivo. Y el profeta me voltea a ver y me dice, no problema, no pasa nada, déjalos que se acerquen. Entonces estas personas se acercan porque reconocieron al profeta, ya había pasado la cruzada en el Estadio Azteca. Y esas personas ubicaron al profeta y le dijeron, usted es el profeta. Y dijo, sí, y lo abrazaron y él los abrazó y le pidieron una foto. Y yo estaba ahí como queriéndome meter ahí para que pues no fueran a ocasionar algún daño. Pero esa mirada del profeta de todo está bien, Dios tiene control de todo, capitán, no te preocupes, me daba una paz. Y como te comento, en Paraguay, en República Dominicana, en Israel, en Perú, siempre que terminaban las cruzadas, no importaba el horario, así fueran 2, 3 de la mañana, no importaba el cansancio, siempre reunía a los obreros, siempre reunía a los servidores, reunía a la gente de seguridad y se daba un tiempo para agradecerles y se daba el tiempo para bendecirlos y para ministrarlos y para orar por ellos, por cada uno de ellos.
When I was trying to apply for schools, usually you pick the average just so that if you don't get into the top, you can get into the average. The prophet would say, no, you go for the top.
For a man that influential, you would expect him at some point to get big-headed. He never did. He was such a simple man who just wanted to touch lives. I have so many examples.
He was generous to a fault. There was an experience I had with him. You see, when we have earthquakes all over the world, he was always the first to send aid to those people. I remember what he did in 1980 when they had an earthquake. I recall that. And apart from that, there were countries around that he built schools for.
Now I realized that I have the pleasure, the honor to be in the presence of a true prophet. Many people don't know who even come to the synagogue. They come for healing, they come to listen, but they don't grasp that they are sitting in the presence of a true prophet. In his small little office with his kind voice, he gives you advices. When he prays, so many things happen in my life, in my business, on my flute, my composing, my mind opens up. So I am eternally grateful to what Prophet tbjoshua has done in my life for me. And in the next 10, 20, 100 years, people will talk about the prophet who lived in Africa, who healed on the prayer line. Every Sunday, 100, 200 people, they touch the screen. We don't know how many thousand people are healed in touching the screen. The world has not yet fully grasp Prophet tbjoshua.
You cannot be proud or be a proud person and be a friend of God. You cannot be. So humility, then staunch belief, faith in God. Prophet tbjoshua personified the popular adage of somebody rising from grass to grace. So that gave me the conviction too that with God on my side, the sky is just the beginning. So that those of us who have come from humble background, with God on our side, we can also get to the top.
After his passing on, this is someone who has been successful in all ramifications.
Right.
When you compare him with his peers. And yet he was able to leave all of this behind, to go home without even thinking twice. So and that really reflected on me that even though I may be in the UK pursuing all of this, trying to get all the worldly possessions, eternal life is the key at the end of the day, because without it, it's all useless. If a man of such worth, dignity could leave all of this behind and return home, and he keeps hammering it, whether you die young or you live long, what matters is the grace to continue living after life is over. So I would say those are the key things that really resonate with me wherever I am. The US, the UK, it's all vanity upon vanity if you do not achieve that eternal life, which he has achieved right now.
That's right.
So
If you have people who love you and who see the value in you, you must see the value in yourself. So for such a man that millions of people would have loved to meet, to have such an interaction with me, yes, why not? I'm a man of faith. I believe in miracles. My life itself is a miracle. I was born in a church. I was named Joseph. I dreamed dreams. My father was Jacob. My mom was a stark illiterate. I lost my father at the age of 13. And through the influence of someone like Prophet tbjoshua, I acquired a lot of confidence that you can make it. Look at this environment. For a man who I don't know how he even navigated himself to Lagos from Akoko, and he became a global champion. For me, he has really, really influenced me. I said, our daddy has left us, but I will continue. I can say, oh, he's gone, but there is no way. There is no way. I still feel his presence all around me. The love has not diminished.
I remember seeing him on one of the postcards where he took the small bottle from the shoulders of a beggar and drank. That way, the beggar felt a sense of humanity. And when he beckoned at him to eat with him, it wasn't a problem. A man who could do that, and the next moment he's having interactions and conferences with presidents, reputable countries. What he did in Sudan is still historical. Yes. He knew and realized that the degree of antagonism, of destruction, is directly proportional to the volume of God's work that you were doing. He left that to his creator and God, knowing that there's very little he could do about it. But he was intensely focused on why he came to this world, and that is to help people gain salvation. The stones are thrown at the tree or on the tree that bears fruit. To be frank, if these are no lessons, I don't know what lessons you can derive. I still celebrate him. I cannot cease to enjoy the memory. I like to remember the man, the humble man, the selfless man, the man who was always eager to reach out, to give and give and give more. That for me was remarkable.
And what will you remember him for the most?
Changing lives globally, changing mine.